You know that feeling? When things on your team just feel a bit off.
Yeah,
There's like a subtle friction, maybe projects aren't quite landing, and then that phrase gets thrown around. There's a lack of trust.
ugh, yeah, that one.
It lands like a personal hit, doesn't it? And it almost never points you towards a solution. It just
Yeah.
hangs there.
That is such a common sticking point. And the team at Phoenix Performance Partners, they really nailed this in their recent article, You Don't Trust Me.
Right.
They point out how that general idea, that lack of trust, it just makes people immediately defensive.
Totally shuts down the conversation.
Right. Any chance of real progress, just poof, gone.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we're really zeroing in on that Phoenix Performance Partners piece.
Get plan.
Our goal is to take that vague, kind of cloudy feeling of distrust and, well, break it down into something you can actually get your hands around.
Make it actionable.
Yeah, move past the blame game. Give you a framework, really, for understanding where exactly those trust breakdowns might be happening. Think of it as maybe a shortcut to get a handle on a really tricky issue.
And the article gives us a really powerful way to do that. It identifies these 4 key components that actually make up trust:
Okay, what are they?
intent trust, integrity trust, competence trust, and psychological safety. It's like having a map,
Yeah.
for navigating what often feels like totally uncharted territory.
Okay, let's start mapping then. The first area they talk about is intent trust. What's the core of that one?
So intent trust, at its heart, it's about believing that the people you work with, well, they mean well.
Okay, good intentions.
Yeah. Do you trust that their motives actually line up with the team's goals? Do you believe everyone is generally trying to do the right thing, working towards the same purpose?
So if that foundation, that intent trust, is shaky, what does that look like day to day?
Well, when intent trust is low, you'll often hear people questioning why others are doing things.
Second guessing.
Yeah, there might be whispers about hidden agendas, or maybe a feeling that some people are just looking out for number one, not the team.
Right. And flip side,
Mm-hmm.
when intent trust is strong, what's the vibe like then?
Oh, it's much better. There's this sort of fundamental belief that everyone's on the same page,
Okay.
that everyone wants the team to win. You operate from a place of assuming positive intent, basically.
Got it. So if you ever find yourself wondering if a colleague is truly, bought into the team's success, this intent trust idea gives you a lens to look at that feeling.
Exactly.
Now, what's the next piece of this trust puzzle?
The second critical component is integrity trust. This one's all about whether you can rely on people to follow through.
Ah, the follow through.
Yeah. Do their actions actually match their words consistently?
We've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah.
What are some telltale signs that integrity trust might be low?
Low integrity trust, well, it shows up as missed deadlines pretty often. Promises that kind of evaporate, that general feeling that you just can't always count on people to do what they said they'd do.
And what's the impact when integrity trust is high? Things just run smoother.
Much smoother. With high integrity trust, there's a strong sense of reliability. People do what they say,
Makes sense.
which makes planning, coordinating, collaborating just much easier, more efficient.
Yeah, you can see how a lack of follow through just gums up the works, can't you? So integrity trust really hits that frustration point.
Okay, third component.
That would be competence trust. This is about having confidence in the skills and abilities of your colleagues.
Right. Can they actually do the job?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you believe they have the necessary expertise to perform their roles effectively, to do their jobs well?
So what happens when that competence trust is lacking? What does that look like?
When competence trust is low, you often see people kind of stepping in to do other people's work.
Oh, okay. Taking over. Yeah. Or maybe constant checking up. That sort of reluctance to delegate important tasks because you don't fully believe in their capabilities.
And when competence trust is strong.
Well, then you can confidently rely on the expertise around you. You trust your team members have the skills, the knowledge to handle their responsibilities. It frees you up to focus on your own stuff.
Ever felt that urge to micromanage someone? That could be a signal maybe of issues with competence trust.
Could be.
All right, so we've got intent, integrity, competence. What's the crucial fourth element here?
The final piece of this framework, and it's a big one, is psychological safety.
Okay. Heard a lot about this one lately.
Yeah, it's gained traction. It's about feeling secure enough within the team to speak up, ask questions, maybe admit you made a mistake
Without fear.
without fear of negative repercussions.
Right.
Exactly. The Phoenix Performance Partners article really emphasizes it's fundamentally the absence of fear of retribution.
And retribution, that's not just getting fired.
Okay.
It can be subtler.
Oh, absolutely. Way subtler most of the time. I mean, yes, demotion or termination are possibilities in like extreme cases.
Sure.
But the article highlights that more often retribution comes in social forms.
Like what?
Like the fear of being judged or gossiped about, maybe excluded, or just made to feel stupid for voicing an opinion.
Right, being ostracized.
Yeah. Or it could be fears about damage to your reputation, your career prospects down the line.
Wow. That feels incredibly important then. It really speaks to whether you and your team actually feel comfortable bringing up tough stuff or sharing weird ideas or
Yeah.
even just disagreeing respectfully.
Without worrying about the fallout.
Yeah. And what's interesting, like you said, it's not just about being nice. It hits innovation, doesn't it? If people are scared to share a different idea.
Precisely. You stifle creativity. You shut down potential solutions because people are afraid to voice them.
Okay, so this framework sounds really useful.
Yeah.
How did it play out in the real world? You mentioned the article had a client example.
That's right. To illustrate how this works, they talk about a client who is grappling with that familiar feeling, that vague lack of trust on their team.
Okay, so how did using this four-part model actually help them?
Well, they had the team members anonymously rate each of the 4 components, just on a simple scale 1 to 5.
Anonymous is key there, I bet.
Definitely. And the results were quite revealing. Intent trust, relatively high, averaged 4.2.
Okay, so people generally believed others meant well.
Yeah, and competence trust wasn't far behind. That was a 4.0.
So they believed people could do their jobs too, mostly.
That seems to be the case. However, integrity trust scored noticeably lower. That came in at 3.2.
Okay. A drop there.
And psychological safety, that was the lowest of all. Average score of just 2.2.
Wow. Okay, that really focuses the issue, doesn't it?
Right.
It wasn't about questioning motives or skills. The real problems were around, well, reliability, the integrity piece, and feeling safe enough to speak up, the psychological safety part.
Exactly. It just demonstrates the power of this framework. You move from this vague complaint to pinpointing the specific areas that really need attention.
So once they ID'd psychological safety as the biggest hurdle, did they dig deeper? What did they find out?
They did. They asked team members to elaborate, what specifically made them unsafe unsafe when speaking up.
Okay.
And the responses, as the article points out, are actually quite common in a lot of teams, not unique to them.
What kind of specific fears came up?
Some of the key ones included that feeling of hitting a landmine,
What does that mean exactly?
like unknowingly stepping into some sensitive topic or conflict and getting, blown up for it.
Okay. Tread carefully.
Yeah. There was also a big concern about lack of confidentiality, fear of gossip.
That's corrosive.
Totally. Team members also talked about fear of being disrespected, worry that speaking up could put their job on the line, and just a general fear of being blamed if things went sideways.
Those are some heavy concerns. It's no wonder people would clam up if those fears are floating around.
Absolutely. And this is where the Phoenix Performance Partners article gives something really useful for you, the listener.
Oh, yeah.
They offer a simplified assessment based on these 4 components. It can help you get a clear picture of the trust dynamics in your own team, or maybe even in specific work relationships.
Okay, cool. Walk us through this simple trust assessment. How does it work?
It's pretty straightforward. You just consider a few statements for each of the 4 trust components,
Okay.
and you rate how much you agree with them. Say on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is strongly disagree and 5 is strongly agree.
Got it. So for intent trust, what kind of statements are we talking about?
For intent, you might think about things like, team members genuinely care about the success of our team.
Makes sense.
Or, I believe that when decisions are made, the needs of everyone on the team are taken into account. Things like that.
Okay, that helps gauge if you think people have good intentions. What about for integrity trust?
For integrity, you'd reflect on statements like, when team members make a commitment, they consistently follow through.
The do what you say piece again.
Exactly. And maybe, if someone realizes they can't meet a deadline, they communicate it proactively and honestly.
Okay. And how do we assess competence trust this way?
For competence, think about, I am confident that my team members have the skills and knowledge to perform their roles effectively.
Pretty direct.
Yeah. Or maybe, The quality of work produced by our team consistently meets expectations.
Okay. And finally, that crucial one.
Hmm.
How do we get a read on psychological safety?
The statements here are really key. Things like, on this team, people feel safe to voice a different opinion, even if it goes against the majority.
Important.
And when someone makes a mistake, it's seen as an opportunity to learn and improve rather than a cause for blame.
Okay, so once you, or maybe your team, rates these statements, how do you use the results?
The article suggests calculating an average score for each of the 4 categories. Pretty simple math. And the area with the lowest average score, that's likely where you need to focus your trust-building efforts first.
Gives you a starting point.
Exactly. It's a really practical way to kick off some self-reflection, or maybe even start a team conversation about it.
Okay, so let's say you've done that. You've identified the area that needs the most attention. What then? What are some concrete, actionable steps you can take to actually start rebuilding trust in each area?
Yeah, the article doesn't just diagnose, it offers strategies too. Targeted ones for each component.
Good, let's hear them. What about for intent trust, if that's low?
To strengthen intent trust, they suggest focusing on really clarifying the team's shared purpose, like why are we all here?
Getting aligned.
Yeah, and how each person's work fits into that bigger picture. Also, creating opportunities for people to just connect on a personal level, build those relationships.
Makes sense. Anything else?
And encouraging the practice of intention sharing, like explicitly stating your intentions at the start of a project or important discussion. My goal here is...
Okay, that seems useful. What about concrete steps for integrity trust, the follow-through issue?
For integrity, it's really crucial to establish super clear agreements with well-defined deliverables, timelines, the whole bit. And then implement accountability systems, but ones that are designed to support people in following through, not punish them for slipping.
Supportive accountability, I like that.
Yeah. And also make sure to visibly acknowledge and even celebrate when people do follow through. Reinforce that positive behavior.
Right, and for boosting competence trust. If people doubt skills.
There you want to focus on providing targeted training and development, address any real skill gaps.
Okay.
Ensure roles and responsibilities are crystal clear. People need to know what's expected and delegate appropriately, give people chances to prove their competence. Mentoring can also be huge here.
Good point. Finally, what about tangible actions for psychological safety? This feels foundational.
It really is. This involves setting up clear norms for conversations. Like, how are we going to talk to each other? Active listening, respectful disagreement, that sort of thing.
Ground rules.
Exactly. Leaders have to model vulnerability, share their own mistakes, what they learned. That makes it safer for others.
Lead by example.
Absolutely. And it's essential to address any instances of disrespect, gossip, unhealthy behavior. Address it promptly and consistently. Can't let that stuff slide.
No.
And finally, create structured ways for all team members to contribute their ideas. In meetings, in decisions, make sure every voice can be heard.
That client example you mentioned, it really drove home focusing on specific behaviors. What were some of the concrete things their leadership did to boost psychological safety, and did it work?
Yeah, so their leadership team specifically focused on establishing those explicit ground rules for discussions, emphasizing curiosity over judgment, making sure everyone got airtime. They also made a really conscious effort to be more open about their own challenges, their own mistakes.
Modeling vulnerability.
Exactly. And they actively stepped in to address disrespect or negative talk when they saw it. Plus, they changed some meeting structures to specifically solicit input from everyone, not just the loudest voices.
And what were the results? Did the needle move?
It did. Within about 3 months, which is pretty quick, really,
Right.
they saw a significant jump in their psychological safety scores. Remember, it was 2.2?
Yeah, really low.
It went up to 3.7.
Wow, that's a big shift.
It is. And this increase directly correlated with having more open, more honest, and just generally more productive conversations within the team.
That's great.
And the article highlights, this wasn't some magic wand. It was the result of consistent focus on specific behavioral changes.
That's really encouraging. It shows that honing in on these underlying components, these behaviors,
Yeah.
it can actually lead to real progress.
It absolutely does. And I think the core message of the Phoenix Performance Partners article really hits home here.
What's that?
That addressing trust isn't about trying to, change someone's fundamental character.
Right. It's not about judging them as a person.
No. It's about identifying specific, observable behaviors within each of these four trust components and then working together to improve them.
So the framework gives you a path.
Exactly. It offers a pathway from that vague, uncomfortable feeling of, I don't trust you, to a much more constructive, actionable conversation about what specifically needs to change.
So as you're listening and reflecting on this deep dive, maybe take a moment. Think about your own teams, your own working relationships.
Yeah.
Which of these four components, intent, integrity, competence, or psychological safety, might be the underlying source of any friction or unease you're feeling right now?
The real power here, I think, is just recognizing that what feels like one huge, maybe insurmountable problem.
Yeah, like the trust issue.
Right. It can often be broken down into these more manageable, more addressable parts.
And maybe, just maybe, what we often label as that broad trust issue could be handled much more effectively by just focusing on one or two of these specific components.
It's a different lens.
Yeah. What might shift for you or for your team if you started using this more precise lens to look at how you all work together? Something to think about.